I'm gonna take myself off camera and I'll just be in the background.
Aw.
So you'll let me know when we're live?
We will be live in a few seconds. I will
Right,
tell
because you
you.
can't see the status bar.
Yeah,
but
so if you
Yeah.
can just
We
if
are
you can
live
just tell me.
now.
okay,
We are live.
I'll put a little note in the chat box.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Loretta Venegas, and I am a Senior Project Officer in the Clean Water Act Tribal Section. Welcome to our Climate Change Impacts and Adaptation Think Tank discussion. Hopefully everybody is up bright and early today. And I also have Suzanne Marr. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hold on, I'm just typing and I can't do two things at once. Hey, there we go. Hey, good morning, everyone. Yeah, please introduce yourselves in the chat. Shasta's helping us out today. Yay. Loretta cannot see the chat because she is presenting the slides, but Shasta's going to help us monitor the chat. And we look forward to hearing from you through the chat. And so get those fingers warmed up, get your cup of tea, warm tea ready if it's cold where you are, like it is here in Berkeley. And, got our finger exercises going. And we're really glad to be here. I work in Water Division along with Loretta. I'm also the contact in Region 9 for climate adaptation work and for disaster mitigation work as well. And I've worked with a bunch of you all on water grants and wetland grants and other tribal-related things in Region 9 because I've been here forever. So we're glad to have you here. Welcome.
Welcome. So I'll go ahead and move to the next slide.
Okie dokie. So welcome to those who might just be joining and to those who are listening on a recording later. So the purpose of today's session is to provide a little bit of information up front, just a review of climate impacts and terminology, and also to give you a super brief update on where EPA is on climate adaptation planning. But mostly we want to use this think tank time to exchange experiences and ideas about climate change impacts and what folks may be doing or may want to be doing. So you can see a list here of some of the questions that we'll be asking later on, and we super look forward to hearing from you. Tanya, thanks for putting your name in the chat, and anyone else who's been able to join us so far. And Chase, thank you so much. Great to have you folks here, and we look forward to hearing a lot from you during the chat. As a reminder, Loretta can't see the chat. I can, and Shasta's going to help us monitor it. Okay, next slide, please. So this is a handy dandy review slide on some of the impacts that climate change can cause. You can see there's a nice photo here of a flood, looks to be in a southwest riparian area to me, and all the sediment that floodwaters can carry. And one thing that climate change may be doing is increasing storminess, so frequency of big storms and intensity of big storms. At the same time, it might be increasing drought intensity and drought frequency. So it just means, the line of drought and climate and storms that used to be maybe like this might now be going like this. So bigger highs and bigger lows. You can see other things listed here. If you live on the coast, you might be well aware of sea level rise and ocean acidification impacting shellfish, increase in wildfire intensity and frequency. And following that, there might be more debris flow and erosion. And it impacts communities, but it also impacts animals and plants and where they can live. So keep this in mind. This helps us think about what impacts we're seeing and how they might be connected to climate change. And maybe there's impacts we haven't even thought of, but others have seen in our area, so we might see soon as well. Next slide, please. And welcome to those who just joined us. Please go ahead and put your name in the chat, and we're glad you're here. So we're just doing a quick review. Here's some of the basic terminology. There's climate mitigation, climate adaptation, and resilience. And climate mitigation is what we do to work to reduce impacts, to reduce emissions that cause climate change. We're focusing today on climate adaptation and on resilience. So climate adaptation is once we know the climate's going to be changing, until we get that under control, what are we going to do to protect ourselves, our communities, the natural resources around us, and how are we going to build our resilience? Next slide, please, Loretta. And these are updates. So here's two brief slides about what EPA is doing for climate adaptation. So following an executive order from the Biden administration, all national departments and agencies are updating our climate adaptation plans. And we gave those in rapid order to Council on Environmental Quality and White House back in May. And that was a really quick turnaround time. And so those were just issued earlier this month publicly, so everyone can see those. And EPA is doing this to continue to protect human health and the environment, even as the climate is changing. And the plan includes sections on climate vulnerabilities, integrating climate change into our programs, our permitting programs at EPA, our grant funding programs, et cetera. And also to highlight how we assist tribes and others to build their resilience to climate change impacts. So specifically for tribes, there's an upcoming event next Tuesday, October 26th, 9 a.m. Pacific time, to have a listening session on the National Climate Adaptation Plan. And we sure hope you can join us, or others at your tribe can join us. And tribal leaders already received an invitation for this earlier this week, so you can look for that. And we're also going to post this on the climate page to the best of our ability later on today. Next slide, please. So that was the national plan, and EPA national office has told every region and every national office actually that we have to develop a Region 9 climate adaptation implementation plan. So we're working on that as well. We'll be updating the one from 2014 from the Obama administration. And we're going to update the section on vulnerabilities. We're going to look to how are our own programs doing with considering climate change. When we approve a permit, when we give out a grant, are we considering how that investment or how that permit takes climate into account or not? But super important is how can we work with you, with tribes, to listen to what your priorities are, what your needs are for building your own resilience to climate impacts. And we hope to be having a session just for Region 9 tribes in the coming year to hear from you more on what Region 9 can do better. And that's also some of the reason why we're here today, to have this exchange of information. So if you just joined us, thanks for joining us, and please put your name in the chat. And we look forward to hearing more from you, and you're welcome to put more information in the chat as we go, and Shasta is going to help us moderate the chat as we move along. And I think the next slide may be Loretta's. Yep, next slide to you, Loretta.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. Again, good morning. My name is Loretta Venegas, and I'm a Clean Water Act project officer for several of the 106, 319, and all of the other Clean Water tribal programs. And I'm glad to be here joining you with Suzanne to discuss climate change. We wanted to give you an example of what type of assistance has EPA provided. We have a limited amount of funding, but we do want to try and get creative with the funding pots that we have. For example, under our water infrastructure programs, we have the Clean Water Indian Set Aside, which is our wastewater infrastructure program, and then the Drinking Water Tribal Set Aside, which is specific for drinking water systems. Under the water infrastructure, we have previously been able to fund several projects, but under each of the solicitations for the infrastructure programs, we have addressed water supply deficiencies related to drought. As you know, we're in a severe drought right now with California. And we are trying to, under our solicitations, there's specific criterias that would address the drought deficiencies. And also under our clean water for wastewater, a couple of years back, due to the blackouts of the electrical powers and the wildfires, we were able to assist with backup generators to support the drinking water systems and wastewater as well. We were coordinating funding between EPA and the Indian Health Service as well, and we were able to support some funding to address those needs. We're also increasing our coordination with federal partners. As I mentioned earlier, working with Indian Health Service, working with USDA as well, leveraging those infrastructure pots of money to assist in different types of projects that are related to climate change. Also, technical assistance is being provided through the technical assistance circuit rider type programs to develop those water systems and to support the operators and any emergency plans as well. And this is, as you know, this is supposed to be a think tank, you know, for the climate change. And we've been mentioning to you the different terminology of climate change, examples of what we've been able to fund. And now we want to hear from you. So hopefully we can have through the chat, an interaction in response to these questions and to kind of get a feel of how is climate change affecting your community? How is it affecting your infrastructure? Just based on some of the examples that I provided earlier. Your natural resources, how is it being affected by climate change? And these are some of the questions that we have. So I think what we can do is I'll just go question by question, and then hopefully you can just respond in the chat box of some experiences that you might have. So the first one is, what actions have you taken to build resilience to climate impacts? So any actions that you have taken or experienced, if you can just include those in the chat box. And Suzanne, if you can just kind of guide us of what responses we may be getting.
Yeah, tell us if which of you have experienced fires this year or in previous years. That's a real important new focus for some of the EPA programs, is really figuring out how we're going to build resilience to wildfire. Is it, fuels management? Is it controlled burns, cultural burns, supporting those more? Or are there drought issues, which of course can lead to wildfire, or also impact drinking water systems? So, if you want to just drop in what you've seen into the chat, that'll help us get the chat rolling. And perhaps also you've seen impacts from fire on your infrastructure, on the community, on homes, on businesses. I'm interested in hearing that as well, so we can understand what real problems you all are facing out there on the land. It's especially hard since we haven't been able very well to come out and visit tribes this last year and a half. That we can feel a little bit disconnected from what's happening on the ground. So hearing from you all helps a lot.
Or just if actions have been taken, what sort of actions do you hope to take next?
So Chase says there's more lightning fires and homeless encampment fires. Yeah, that's a real issue. Yeah. And it's a challenge. And Chase, did that happen? Was that summertime, like with monsoon systems coming through, or have you seen it more in the fall? And anyone else who's had fire issues too, you're welcome to chime in. I know there's some delays on the system, so what have some of you done to maybe reduce fuels or cultural burnings on your lands, or maybe collaborated with others in your region to do it? Yep, Chase says that monsoons had a fire 2 weeks ago at Imperial Wildlife Reserve. Oh yeah, that's challenging. Sometime working on some of the reserve lands and with the reserve lands can be super hard, I imagine. And finding the funding to do some of the good fire on the land can be really challenging. Anna says that her community struggles in fire season, and actions that she hopes to take include prescribed burning and prescribed grazing for fuels management. Oh, grazing's great.
That's great. Yeah, great examples.
Yeah.
Or from these examples, what has made it difficult to take actions? I know that funding is usually, one of the barriers as well.
That's a really good question, Loretta. What have been barriers to taking action? Like if you're trying to do prescribed fires or other fuels management, are there things that get in the way of your ability to do that? Or if there's other issues, around drought or whatever, what makes it tough to take action on that? I do know some people have had challenges some of the air permits that are required for control burns. If you've had issues with that, it's good to let us know.
Oh, Suzanne and Loretta, this is Shasta.
Hey,
I know
Shasta.
it's hard under these circumstances to elicit responses, and I know you have a few slides left, but what I might suggest is that we could actually reconvene in a lounge. We have a Climate Warriors lounge, and everybody will be able to be on screen and unmute themselves, and we can continue the conversation in the lounge.
Okay.
So
we could go through the rest of the slides?
Yeah, and you can actually share your slides in the lounge as well. Of course, we can't record in the lounge, so if you want to go through those couple of slides and then we can reconvene in the lounge for the rest of the session, then people can speak.
Oh, okay.
That's innovative thinking.
Yeah, thank you, Shasta.
Okay, go for it.
All right, and so the remaining slides was, after hearing about your cases and challenges, then how can EPA continue to assist the tribes? Maybe discussing a few examples, like I mentioned earlier, coordination with other federal agencies, again, trying to leverage those funding pots to assist within our own EPA programs, such as like the GAP program or the Clean Water Act 106 and 319, if we can leverage funds in relation to climate change impacts, we're always open to discuss that as well. I think these are just some links to resources, additional resources that we have that might assist in your referencing about climate change, indicators. There's a toolkit, so lots of information for you to review.
Yep. So yeah, go back there later when you want to scan around and see what's available. And that's it. So Shasta, can you give us directions on how to get to a specific lounge, please?
Yes, I just put those in the chat. So what we'll do is we can leave the session, and you can do that. The attendees can do that at any point. Leave the session and then go to lounges. You click lounges in the left side menu from the lobby. And then there's several lounges. So enter or join the Climate Change Warriors Lounge. And then there will be a live session that people can join. So why don't you, I'm going to stay here and monitor the chat, but why don't the two of you go ahead and take off and do that? And
I will do my best.
Yeah.
If you won't get there before me, go ahead and start talking.
Yeah, it's
lost
easy.
In the hallway of the
lounge, Climate Change Warriors, and live.
Okay, thank you.
Shasta, how do I get out of this and go to lounge?
I
If
think you
this,
just shut down the tab.
the tab at the upper top. Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks, Shasta.
All right, here we are. You guys can unmute, you can show your beautiful faces, and we can have a conversation. And Loretta, you can even share the PowerPoint again if you want to show the slide with the questions on it again. Although Loretta, you're muted right now too, so. So yeah, down at the bottom, there's a little click, the middle button that has the little computer screen with the arrow on it. There you go. I can see all of you on the right hand side. There's different windows for people who are on, and I believe I'm going to see if there's a place to on the lower right. There's a little a button with three little dots in it. You can go in there and choose change layout, and you can do it tiled with all of the people. You can do sidebar, which will show the slide and then people on the side. So that way you can change your view. But yeah, folks, unmute yourselves, start having a conversation. There are some things in the chat as well. Now that we've gone to the lounge, people are suddenly starting to chat. So Marissa Morrow mentioned that air quality and droughts are issues in Nevada. And Sally Peterson, who's in Lake County, Middletown Rancheria in California, is it's air quality, drought, wildfires, heat waves. Yeah, and she suspects that they're going to have flooding issues. I suspect you're right, Sally. I actually just got an email from him. You talked about him and he sent me an email. But you know what, Sally, I would love to hear is, I know Sally from participating in our monthly CalTIPO calls. So it's the cultural resources stuff. Sally, I have deep concerns about the impacts of climate change on, you know how it is in the TIPO world. Cultural resources from the federal side are archaeological sites, but what about the impacts on traditional foods and sacred sites and plants and animal species? I know you can speak to that. on Oiha. Yes. Yes. And in fact, the speaker is on in our chat right now, in our lounge. Oh, what the heck do they want now? That's Lori with her great sense of humor. I can't.